I was in a great job I loved. I worked for an insurance company I was there for about 7 years. And so when Darren matched, well, I had already given my bosses the heads up. So they weren't shocked when I told them I had to resign within a couple months, which I did. So Darren matched like in March, and I left the company May 31st. May 30th was my last day. And we moved that first week in June to New York. Yeah, it was hard for me to leave after being in a company for so long, and then you have to start over again and send up resumes and just get yourself out there again.
Hey there, and welcome to the IMG Residency Match podcast. You're in the right place if you're an ambitious international medical graduate who wants insider strategies and inspiration to help you match into residency. I'm your host, Shauna K. Lister. I've been an admission consultant and writing coach for 12 years, and for the last 7 years, I've helped IMGs create residency applications that help them get multiple interviews, match, and create the medical career they want. Applying to residency as an IMG, especially as a foreign medical graduate, can be stressful. But when you match, you feel so much joy that you finally achieved a goal you've worked so long and so hard for. I mean, it's time to pack your bags, it's time to pack your suitcases and start your new job. But wait, what if you are not moving alone? What if you're moving with a spouse who has already, created a career of their own, a network of their own that they have worked so long and so hard to build, but now they're going to have to start over? Today, we're talking with a couple who will help you figure out what to do before and after the move to keep both partners happy. I am so honored and excited that you will hear from pediatric resident and memorable essay happy client Darren Bodkin and his wife Alicia, who's an ACCA-qualified accountant. Before we jump in, we have to thank our sponsor, the IMG Residency Match Application Accelerator, for making this podcast possible. The IMG Residency Match Application Accelerator is a personalized premium program to help ambitious IMGs like you create an application that gives you the best possible odds of matching. You can find out more at imgresidencymatch.com. Remember to stay tuned until the very end for today's word of inspiration. All right, so Darren, since you're the IMG, could you start by telling us a bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Darren Bodkin. I'm a pediatric resident and IMG grad from Trinidad and Tobago. My medical school is the University of the West Indies. After working in the pediatric world in the NICU, back home in Port of Spain General, I decided to do further training in the United States, which led to the USMLE exams and meeting persons who were preparing for that with Shauna K's assistance.
Okay. All right. And then we are joined today. I'm so pleased to be joined by Darren's wife, Alicia. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, you're welcome. And so could you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. My name is Alicia from Trinidad and Tobago as well. I am a qualified ACCA-qualified accountant by profession, a dancer as well. So I'm very much into the arts and just really excited to be on this journey with my husband as he continues to further his career.
Oh, okay. So how did you two meet?
Oh wow, this is interesting.
Okay.
Brief synopsis. His brother's wife and I went to school together.
Mm-hmm.
She decided that I would be a perfect match for Darren.
Really?
So basically, it was like a setup, a date that I did not even know of. His brother actually messaged me through Facebook, through his wife's account. So I thought I was talking to his wife, not knowing I was talking to Darren's brother. So he was asking me some questions about when next do I have a dance recital or a next show that I'm going to dance in. And coincidentally, I had a show that I was dancing in coming up. So we basically made arrangements for them to come to the show. And he said that he was going to bring his brother. And I'm like, okay, cool. I was just glad I was going to get tickets sold.
Okay.
So after the show, Darren's brother's wife, she came backstage and said her husband and brother, they're outside. They wanted to meet me and say hi. So I came outside to meet them. And it was the first time seeing Darren. And I was like, hi, my name is Alicia. He introduced himself literally for like a couple minutes. I mean, I didn't think anything of it. And I left literally. And then we just kind of like messaged each other on Facebook and started talking. And as they say, the rest is history. And it was only afterwards that I realized that it was kind of like a setup kind of thing. I didn't know anything about it.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting. So I'm curious, why did the brother's wife think that you would be a match?
I don't know. I think for her she was just thinking, Alicia's, into arts and beside the fact that I'm a Christian and so forth, they just thought that Darren being in the medical field, he will need somebody who's, a bit artsy to kind of like have him be more relaxed and just be out and like see a different side of life. I think that was her thinking.
Oh, pretty smart thinking. Darren, is that story accurate? The story of the meeting, is it accurate according to what you remember?
Very accurate.
Okay. And did you know you were being set up?
Yeah, I was in congruence with the plan.
Did you check her out on Facebook before going to the show?
I did not.
Oh, okay. All right. You just trusted.
Yeah.
All right. Alicia, how did it affect you when Darren was going through the residency application process?
I was pretty excited actually. I had like a lot of questions in terms of like for me, I wanted to make sure that I could work. And so I wanted to know if, what will that procedure look like? Would it be similar to him? And how would the process be with us getting visas? And Darren had like a lot of interviews back and forth and the exams that he had to do as well. So for me, I'm very much like every step of the way, okay, in the next 3 months, what do we need to do? In the next 6 months, what do we need to do? Do we need to hear back from SUNY, like different medical boards and so forth? So, I mean, I was very much going along for the ride with Darren and like just being with him there every step of the way and, encouraging him. And it was something that I knew of from the beginning of our relationship that he wanted to go ahead and do his residency in the US, where we did not know as yet because we still had to wait on that whole matching process. But for me, I was just like game on, let's do this.
So this question is for Darren. I want to know, while you were going through the match process, what were your thoughts about how it would benefit Alicia or how it would disadvantage her if it turned out that you were successful?
There are a couple of advantages for her. First off, being able to get the opportunity to work in another country and whatever opportunities they would have that would build on your existing, capabilities in the accounting field would be a good thing. And even for the exposure to network, I think that was the second big thing that would have been a benefit to her, to be able to network with persons in her professional world. She went to a couple of meetings with ACCA, and also to network with persons who are even in the artistic field as well. You meet more persons who are into dance and creative expressions. So I think that was two important benefits. And also to be able to even have a better growing appreciation of the world around you and how different it is. Different from, way living in the Caribbean and the United States. The disadvantage is that it's a bit of the unknown because you're leaving security. You already had a job in your home country and your own vehicle and stuff. So when you are selling that and accumulating some savings to then go and migrate, you're paying higher rent in a foreign country. And then there's also a downtime because the paperwork to get work authorization for her as on her visa classification, it takes a long time. So they had a couple of months waiting for that before you could officially start working. And then just being away from home as well is the next challenge, just because you're away from support. So that was one thing to consider. I think the other thing that would be probably a disadvantage is adjusting to the culture It's a different cultural experience, and that is okay with the food, but even just like what social norms will be different, and environment, weather changes. I deal with going from extremes of cold to extremes of hot. For some people, that's very frustrating. I had no idea to know how she would tolerate that.
A question I have, because I hadn't thought about this until you said it, but the financial aspect of things, I didn't realize, because then you guys would have to plan together and and decide what to sacrifice to basically take a risk. Did that feel scary, Alicia, or it felt normal?
It did not make me scared, as it was, because we had sufficient time, a year, I would believe, to sort of plan for it financially. So we took certain decisions in terms of in terms of buying a house, or like buying like a lot of furniture for our home. We just like rented an apartment and had like minimal furniture, and we started to like save up like US money and like just change up like a lot of US, and ask friends for, if they could buy US for us, because back home in Trinidad and Tobago, it was a bit difficult at the point in time to get US dollars. So we had like a full year. We started researching prices for apartments in New York, especially in Brooklyn, close to SUNY. And that definitely gave us an idea of how much type of apartment we wanted and how much we needed to save, and like how much would be bills, like for groceries. We spoke to like people who were living here, and just asked them, how much you think would be a monthly grocery bill for 2 adults, and how much is average amount for like gas and heating, and all those things. So that definitely gave us a good idea of how much our monthly expenses would be, and would we be able to live off of that based on Darren's salary monthly, because we basically lived off his salary for like a year before I started working and so forth. So yes, it got into the unknown, but at the same time, we were prepared as much as we could, and I think that helped a lot.
Okay, that sounds like some extreme planning.
yeah, extreme. But it helps. It really helps.
And so would you say that the whole process brought your marriage together more, like made you guys closer, or?
I would say yes, it did. As I said, I was very much involved in the entire process. I remember the day when we found out that Darren matched was actually on our anniversary.
Oh my God, really?
We were out of the country at the point in time celebrating, and he got the email, and we were in the hotel room jumping up. Yay!
Oh my God. Wow. Oh, that's so nice. All right. And so when it comes to the actual move, because I'm working with a couple IMG clients now who are married and they're going to be moving, do you have any tips for the actual move? What was challenging and what made it easier?
So my advice is build a baseline knowledgeable amount of research on the environment that you potentially be moving to. Even if there are 2 or 3 states that you identify would be like the top 3 places to match to, and with those 3 campuses, you can look at the average cost of rent for like a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. You can also look at what would be the mode of transportation. So like in New York, it's the train. In other states, it may not. So for instance, I have friends who matched to Florida, and one of the things they did is save up money towards purchasing a car pretty soon within that first year. So you can look at what would be the average cost of a regular, not brand new showroom, but second-hand used car, Toyota or whatever, good brand. So put that into your estimates of funds that you want to save towards. And I think that helps you be a bit more prepared. One of the challenges is the paperwork, and this differs according to which country you are from. So for instance, you have to get certain documentation from your medical institution of training in addition to the country that is a passport you're using. So whichever country passport you're using, that country has to sign a letter stating that you will return, etc. Now, there are some persons that have had difficulties in getting delays in getting either one the letter from the university signed,
Mm-hmm.
or two, the letter from the Ministry of Health signed. I think that process is potentially one of the more frustrating or tense, nerve-wracking parts of the process for any person. The second thing is that the timeline in which you know that you've matched to when you can actually begin getting the paperwork ready is, I mean, it's not like 6 months, it's probably about 3 months max before you're expected to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I could feel a bit tense. And the third thing is that when you are looking at coming up, I would advise, July 1 is usually, it is your starting time for all of the residents. But a few weeks before, you should try to be in the country of the state, looking around at places that you wanted to check out that you've been looking at online, and that will help.
Thank you. And Alicia, when it comes to working, were you in a job when Darren matched?
Yes, I was. I was in a great job. I loved. I worked for an insurance company I was there for about 7 years. And so when Darren matched, well, I had already given my bosses the heads up. So they weren't shocked when I told them I had to resign within a couple months, which I did. So Darren matched like in March, and I left the company May 31st. May 30th was my last day. And we moved that first week in June to New York. Yeah, it was hard for me to leave after being in a company for so long. And then you have to start over again and send out resumes and, just get yourself out there again. One good thing for me is that I networked a lot, and I would encourage anyone, especially speaking to the wives coming up with their husbands who are matching, if there is some sort of like professional network that they could get into, because that helped me a lot to secure the job that I'm in now. So for instance, as I'm ACCA-qualified, there's an ACCA office here in New York. So I signed up with them, and they had like a lot of events going on, and I was able to meet like a lot of other people from the Caribbean and all over the world. And I was able to send up my resumes, and my resume ended up with a firm called Accounting Principles that specifically find jobs for accounting professionals. And they were able to land me the job that I'm in now. So definitely networking and doing that prep. Any sort of, even being on LinkedIn is great as well, I find, for if you're gonna find a job in New York or London or wherever you are in the world. And yeah, I was home for about specifically a year. It took me about 4 months to literally get my work authorization documents and so forth. And I specifically wanted to take some time off just to acclimatize myself to New York and climate and everything else, and just understand the culture a little bit more, especially the work environment, which is very different.
All right, thank you. And so for the both of you, what was challenging about settling into New York? And I'm curious if either one of you adjusted better or more quickly than the other.
I lived in the United States a few years before coming up for residency. We started residency in 2018, right? So probably 10 years prior. So I felt adjusted to the seasonal changes. And I felt adjusted to the kind of a hustle and bustle of particularly New York City. And in terms of the educational concept as well. The adjustment, I think, would be where we had, I think, some challenges would be identifying or understanding how people interact. I think like socially is a little bit different. Like when Caribbean people, the way how we socialize, it's not as any one person or grouping is bad. It's just that Caribbean persons and purely American groupings, it's slightly different. The other thing was, the holidays and their perspective on holidays was different too, right? So, they're very big on Halloween, or they're very big on Thanksgiving.
Right.
And those are like, whatever, for me, kind of days. So being able to adjust to that is something that, we had to learn on the go. It's like on the job training with us, with that is concerned.
Okay, and so what do you mean, like celebrating the holidays, or just how excited people get about them? I'm not quite clear.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Halloween is coming up, and that person that will ask me like, "Hey, so what you wearing Thursday?"
Yeah.
Like, what? What do you mean? Like, you mean I'm coming to work Thursday? Why would I be wearing something any different this Thursday? Which this Thursday was the Halloween, right?
Yeah.
And then on the day there at work, doing your normal stuff, and someone is dressed like a fairy, someone like Cinderella, someone like Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, dude, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? Is the question. And let me be clear, I literally had persons as seniors ranked as chairpersons of departments who were dressed up, right? So, and asked me to my face, like, what's wrong, Darren? Like, they thought I was having a bad day, or I was upset with somebody or something. Right? So that's how
serious it is, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the $1 million question is, what are you going to be for next year Halloween?
Darren.
That's hilarious. All right. Yeah. And so, Alicia, what are you doing now, and how adjusted do you feel now?
Okay. Well, thankfully I'm working in an awesome finance team as one of the staff accountants, and it's in media tech industry, and it's pretty fun. The offices, I feel like I'm working in a Google office, very modern. I think one of the big challenges for me was getting accustomed to work culture in New York, especially because, for instance, people bring their dog to work. That's very weird for me. Coming from the Caribbean, the dress code is different as well. I'm coming from a very corporate Trinidad and Tobago, where I would be in heels and stocking and suits, to now wear jeans to work and sneakers and boots, and being my CFO comes to work in a pair of joggers and leggings, and that's normal.
Oh wow, okay.
It's very, very different for me. So yeah, adjusting to that it's become like a norm for me now. Guess part of it is because of the industry I'm in, but I know, for instance, like if I go to a law firm on Wall Street, I will see people in their suits and so forth. And even for Darren, when he goes to work, he has to wear like proper shirt and pants as a doctor. But like for most people, when they head into work, they're in their jeans. And I've seen people dress for the occasion, like if there is something specific at the office. So for instance, we had like a Christmas luncheon, and I saw some people dress like the CFO, like had on like a jacket and so forth. But like every day coming to work is like, okay, I'm in a pair of jeans, like anything just to be comfortable.
Very interesting.
I want to add one thing. I observed here in the work culture that persons at any level can make a difference in the work environment, but also impact you individually as an employee. I want to give an example. Someone who is at the level of maybe a front desk clerk or a janitor, they can, based on their interactions with you, make recommendations to your boss or hierarchy team that can be negative or positive based on the interactions with you. And it's going to be acknowledged. It's not that because they are just a front desk clerk, if they have a concern with you or problem with you, that it will be ignored. It will actually be acknowledged. I think that's important for persons coming from the Caribbean or anywhere outside you, anywhere in the world, to acknowledge, because some places where you've previously lived, if the janitor says, well, hey, this doctor is very rude, they may just ignore her and may not even give any acknowledgement of it. If the person says that, hey, he's a really, really polite guy, we like him, he treats everybody with respect, they would actually still ignore it, whether it's a good or positive comment. But here, there's a system of multiple levels of feedback that you have to be aware of. That may not be something you're accustomed to where you're coming from.
Thank you. All right. And so between the two of you, just wondering now, so do you have any advice for physician, non-physician couples who are in their home country right now? So let's say they're sitting together, they're, planning figuring out their finances, about to start the road together for the match process, do you have like a top 5 list when it comes to advice for them for that couple?
I would say number one thing to do is research. Definitely do your research. Where if you're thinking of coming to the US, where most likely you think you're gonna match. Like say you're coming from the West Indies, most Caribbean professionals match to Florida or in New York, so it might be easier for you to be there than let's say Chicago. So definitely do research where you want to live. I googled a lot different areas and like which neighborhoods are good to live in. Streeteasy.com, New York Apartments, all those different websites that you could go on and see, or even just Google the top 10 best neighborhoods in Brooklyn or anything like that. Definitely plan like financially, save. Definitely save, budget. Living in the US on the whole is expensive, especially in New York. It's very expensive, and you have to like pay for everything. You have to pay for heating, you have to pay for lights, you have to pay for water. So definitely research, definitely budget.
All right, the third thing I would say to them is to try to itemize your expectations.
So true.
Meaning sometimes with the move, you can have expectations that are a little bit unrealistic, if you're not prepared. And I've experienced this with other colleagues who had like higher expectations than they should have been prepared for, and it kind of made them a bit, more miserable. So,
what would be an example of that without telling anyone's business?
So, like for instance, some persons, for some strange reason, have been really, really, and I work with a lot of international residents. So some persons have been very, very much taken aback by the, I would say, brevity and short-tempered culture of New Yorkers. Maybe with the tourism advertisements, they see everybody like smiling and looking very, very happy. Shopping. But they get thrown off when they're like,
living here is different.
When they're like Darren, everyone's so rude.
Yeah.
I can't. But like, wow, I don't know which part of New York you saw before.
Right.
New York that I know.
And that's where the research comes in.
Yeah. Have your expectations about like how your interactions with people would be, and also like what you would want to. You can have it in different categories. You could have it academically. That's a given for what you want to achieve. They could also have it personally for like what kind of community you want to develop going forward. Like, do you want to, at the end of 3 years, do you want to have great friends from 3 different continents or a couple different states? Do you want to spend Thanksgiving with random strangers from work, or you think you want to do Thanksgiving with, like, you want to fly back home or something like that? Because by immersing yourself in those different environments, you already broaden the experience and kind of challenge yourself. So that's why I say the expectations, not only just because it's a job academically, and that's a given,
right.
Even with your community and social interactions, those are relevant things to think about and discuss. I would say also another important thing is to have a strong sense of what you want to see while you're here, because your time is a guaranteed 3 years unless you are going forward to do a further subspecialty fellowship. So make use of your time and enjoy this moment that you have, that 3 years, to get around and mingle with people. I think it's very, very critical because it goes by really, really fast. I'm already like 50% through my residency.
Yeah, and I'll ask you guys, so this would be number 5 actually. So for your colleagues who have young children, do you see colleagues like that?
Yes.
Like, what are their special coping mechanisms or things that they always bring up that you would advise anyone with young children to think about?
With young kids, it's always good if you have a family member who is close enough, maybe they're retired, that they can come up and spend a couple of months on like a rotational basis, taking care of children. It's very, very beneficial for families from West Indies because a flight from anywhere in the Caribbean to Florida or to New York is usually one direct flight. It's not too long and reasonable prices so that they can get them to help. Persons who I have with colleagues from all the way in the Middle East or Asia, that's a little more difficult. The second option that persons do is to be able to work with like a good daycare person that they could find, whether through their network at work, work knows, persons they could put them on to, or maybe they're religious grouping, and they may know persons who can help them with that. But the other third thing is organizing shifts at work. So I had a colleague, they were actually both doctors too. So this is not the physician, non-physician type of match, but they always try to arrange their shifts. So one may pick up while the other one drops off. Yeah.
But from school.
Yeah. But if it's a younger group and you say it's a physician, a non-physician couple coming up to just start residency, they have a kid. In the initial few months, while the non-physician is waiting to get work authorization anyway, that person can also develop, not only continue to take care of the kid, but develop networks with finding persons who can help take care of the kids, and also be aware that there are some organizations that provide funding for that. My pay source gives as much as $3,500 a year for your child, and that's in addition to your salary. So you can use that to pay for a daycare person to help you take care of the child.
All right. Thank you guys for those tips. I've never heard anyone say this before, but I loved it. The idea of knowing what you want academically, personally, if you're going to leave with friends from different continents and so on. Yeah. In my experience in New York, sort of like at the end of grad school and work time and all that, there were definitely people who would say, I don't know New York beyond my New York. And that would be like 5 or 10 blocks, literally, from where we lived to the grad school. They had never gone to anything, never seen anywhere. So that definitely can happen very quickly, especially when you're in a high pressure sort of program. You just go from your room to school and then you leave and realize you see other people on Instagram taking pictures of New York. So what do you guys do for fun?
It sounds like normal shopping. Darren and I, we travel a lot. We do like a lot of road trips here within the US. So we might drive to Philly or drive to New Jersey. We went down to Washington, D.C. Earlier this year, we went to Africa. Even that was work related, but still, we're still both travel buddies. I blog a lot about food, so that was one thing that I started since I was here just for fun, and it has taken me to so many amazing restaurants here in New York, and just to try different foods and so forth. So for free. So that's like another thing I do for fun. For me, I dance, so I like take a lot of dance classes and like just go to see like a lot of shows here with my friends that I've met here in New York. Go to the movies. Darren meets up with friends to play football in downtown Brooklyn. Just trying like different ways to have fun. He might go bar hopping with some of his coworkers and like, on a Friday afternoon, go for some pizza. Yeah, after football, get some drinks.
And now for 60 seconds of fun questions. Don't think too hard. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. Alicia, jazz dance or ballet?
Jazz.
Modern dance or jazz?
Modern.
Darren, clinical care or research?
Clinical care.
Darren, jeans or dress pants?
Dress pants.
Alicia, jeans or dress skirt?
Jeans.
Summer or winter, Alicia?
Summer.
Darren, summer or winter?
Summer.
Darren, walk in the park or football?
Football.
Alicia, lip gloss or lipstick?
Lipstick.
Darren, for vacation, Caribbean or Europe?
Europe.
Alicia, for vacation, Europe or Africa?
Ooh, Africa.
Alicia, who dead or alive would you like to meet?
I would love to meet my grandfather. He's dead. He was before I was even born, but I've heard so many amazing things about him. I'd love to meet him.
Thank you. Darren, same question. Who dead or alive would you like to meet?
Denzel Washington.
Oh, favorite song, Darren?
I've been listening to coffee a lot these days, man. So toast.
Toast. And Alicia, favorite movie?
There's so many. I will go with, for now, Black Panther.
All right. Could you just tell me a little bit about the trip that Alicia mentioned?
Oh, yeah. In keeping with my interest in neonatal medicine and global health stuff, or addressing disparities in health, I did a global health elective where I took effectively 10 working days for 2 weeks of overseas clinical mentorship with another neonatologist at my institution at a public hospital in Ghana, Africa. We had specific goals and objectives, which were to go through neonatal resuscitation program training to help the nurses there be able to take care of newborns when they're just delivered, in case they need any help with their breathing, so that we could decrease the neonatal mortality rates. Now, while going forward in the future, for me professionally, I'm not exactly sure that I specifically would be working in Africa. I've always had a strong interest in being able to do something similar to that nature, like in Latin America and the Caribbean. So for me, it was very, very good to do that, because we had the exposure, or I had the exposure of actually planning for an intervention in a foreign country, then going there and executing it. We would have 2 days of classroom sessions teaching nurses, and then we had subsequent days going into the delivery rooms or the operating rooms and helping them to, fully execute what was taught in the classroom when a kid was born. So you have the baby delivered, and they're in charge of taking care of the kid after delivery, and you're just guiding with the steps. There's an algorithm with steps that you would generally go through. And after each delivery, you'd have like a discussion, like a analysis of, hey, what we did well, what we did not do too well, so that they can learn from areas that they made mistakes and even recognize areas that are strong points. So that was the goal. The goal was to do that, and another team will go in a couple of months. But for me, my personal goal was to understand what it takes to develop a group or a non-profit initiative that would go back into another country. All of the resources it took to establish that, and the coordination with persons there on the ground, and identifying a goal and then working towards it. Because one of the things I recognize is, one, it takes a lot of resources. There's so many things that were donated that we carried across.
Right.
And then it takes a lot of communication, because at the level of the Ministry of Health, they have to be on board, they have to endorse it. And then that has to trickle down to persons in the hospital. And you have to engage them at each level, so each person feels that part of the process, feels like, hey, I want this to happen because I think it's beneficial, and buy into the training that you're given. So that's essentially what we did. And I hope that in a few years I'll be able to do it, because I've met a lot of persons from the Caribbean working up here who want to do something similar. And I think if something is established, they would be able to join onto it. But, creating the right framework is important.
All right. And so that fits nicely into my final question for you, which is, now that you're actually in residency and you can potentially see a job or, further specialization, what are you seeing the role of Darren in pediatrics as? What do you want your legacy to be?
Right. I want to contribute to improving the nutritional status, or I should say, outcome of newborns around the world. Because currently, poor nutrition is still one of the major contributors to neonatal or pediatric mortality and morbidity. You still have a lot of kids who are undernourished or malnourished. If you forget North America, which is kind of a extreme example of a large abundance of food. There are lots of areas in Asia and Africa where there's food scarcity and food shortages. And in my clinical practice, but also in research, what I've been doing, focusing on nutrition, looking at breastfeeding, and looking at inflammatory markers in nutrition. And I hope that I could create enough traction in terms of advocacy and policy change to address, malnutrition and food shortages that affects the pediatric population around the world.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Darren. Thank you for tuning in to the IMG Residency Match podcast. To learn more about how you can match into your dream residency, even if right now you don't know where to start, go watch a free training brought to you by the IMG Residency Match Application Accelerator at imgresidencymatch.com. By the end of the training, you'll know how to create an application that communicates to programs why they need to invite you to interview and rank you highly so you can match. Now, don't forget to share this podcast with at least one colleague you know applying to the match so you can celebrate together on match day. And be sure to rate and subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Till next time, we close with a word of inspiration from me, your host, Shauna Kay. Believe in yourself and keep going. You only need one interview, one match, one grant, one job, one opportunity, one yes from one person who sees what you see to turn everything around.